Do you know if Mr. Pfadbaum has a dog? Kai asked suddenly. I don't think so, I whispered back. I think Micah would be much more nervous if he had. Micah looked calm as ever. Surely there weren't any dogs nearby, maybe not even Mr. Pfadbaum himself. A few trails led to various sheds, all made up of the different shoe prints. Obviously, most people owned more than one pair of shoes. The trail leading towards an old caravan consisted of nearly only one pair of prints, the most prominent one being the boomerang pattern shoe prints that we were already familiar with. It's really him, I said contentedly. We might even find some of the money. We edged closer to the caravan and looked inside. It was dark, no lights or even candles. I tried to open the door. It wasn't locked. The three of us scurried inside and found ourselves standing inside a small room. Every last bit of the original furniture had been removed. All there was a simple bed frame covered in old blankets and a ramshackle dresser. The overall smell was unpleasant, and one of the corners contained a small heap of clothing. Mr. Pfadbaum doesn't seem very fond of taking showers, noted Louise, and clamped a hand over her nose. Kai nudged the heap of clothing with his foot, revealing a pair of worn winter boots. He turned them upside down, quite boldly, as they smelled very bad. It was the same pattern we'd noticed in the snow in front of the church, as well as next to my dad's office window. Here we have our thief, he mumbled to himself. Hey, look at this, said Louise, and we all walked over to the dresser. We found an old alarm clock, an even older handkerchief, but also a small, threadbare, well-read-looking Bible. It still had a bookmark, and when I opened the small book, it showed one thickly underlined verse. And what you did for one of my brothers here, however humble, you did for me. An odd thief is that, I determined. He reads the Bible, yet he steals from other people. Louise opened the top drawer and made a sudden noise of surprise, picking out 3 things from the drawer's back. A Bread for the World flyer, the missing booklet for sponsorships in Africa, and an addressed, though not franked, blank envelope. I know that address, gave Louise. How that? Asked Kai, looking thoughtfully at the envelope. That's the address from the same charity organization that organizes my mom's sponsorship in Tanzania, the one I told you about back in Radau when I tried to fix your tomato phone. Whenever my mom sends money to their godchild in Tanzania, she sends it over that organization. I took the envelope from Louise and looked inside, and found exactly what I had suspected. A 50-euro note with green-colored zeros. What are you doing here? A severe voice sounded from behind us. We turned around and stood face to face with a man with shaggy facial hair, dark glasses, and hunter's gear. Most importantly, he pointed a loaded crossbow at us, especially at Micah, who had started growling the second he appeared. I hefted bubblegum into my arms and thought that I'd already experienced way more terror than was strictly allowed for an 8-year-old on Christmas Day. Kai and Louise kept hold of Micah. For just a second I was convinced that Mr. Pfadbaum would just start shooting at us when the bearded man lowered his weapon, having realized that we were just a couple of children. Wait, That's the Ziegler's dog, he said, and started scratching Micah's ear. Are you Mr. Bartbaum? I asked, and I could swear that I'd never felt as brave as I did in that moment. I am. Who are you, and why are you here? We're chasing the parsonage burglar, I said, and showed him the money in the envelope. Did you steal this? He looked at us in great confusion. Then he seemed to understand. No, that wasn't me, but I have an idea who it could have been. You're not the thief? Said Kai, disappointment audible in his voice. How? Every single trace we found leads towards you. Kai pointed towards the boots that matched the footprints we'd found. Yep, those are mine, said Mr. Fargon. And you found the lost key for the parsonage front door? Kai continued to ask. Indeed, I have. How did you get that idea? Now he seemed genuinely astounded. It does very much seem like you're the person who kept stealing from the parsonage over the last couple of months, I guess. Because we found your shoe prints right in front of my dad's office window, where he keeps his donations from church. Our main suspect suddenly started acting very secretive. Oh, so that's where he took the money. That certainly explains why the key went missing from the key hooks. Huh? All three of us asked at the same time. Who is he? Mr. Fartbaum sat down on the bed and shot us a confidential look. His crossbow sat right next to him, pointedly pointing away from us. He wasn't at all like the frightening figure the Zweifels had described to us. He seemed more like an odd mix of St. Nicholas and nativity play Joseph. Maybe just that, but a little more closed off and strange. Can you keep a secret? We all nodded, not exactly certain that we would be able to keep it, but willing to promise anything to hear the story he was about to tell. Well, said Mr. Fartbaum, I did some bad shit over the course of my life, a lot of it. And I'm trying to make up for it by taking in this one homeless man each winter. He's the type of guy to trek around the country all year long, though by now he's too old to make it through the winter on his own. He's very antisocial. We've never even shared a meal, but he sleeps in the caravan, and I usually give him a couple old clothes that he accepts. He even wears them if he feels like it, like those boots. He's not dumb or evil. Unlike me, he went to church yesterday. We nodded because we'd already deduced that. But he's got that one tick. He's convinced that he needs to atone for every single thing he's done wrong in his life much more than I. And he tries to do as much good as he possibly can. It's difficult, though, since he barely has anything himself. He likes wandering through the forest at day. Then I try to clean up his van from time to time. There I noticed that he started stealing money to feed a charity sponsorship in Africa. I never found out where he got the money from until now. I'd appreciate if you kept the police out of this. I'll try and talk to him and take away the key to make sure that he doesn't keep breaking into the parsonage. I hope your dad, he's the pastor, right, has the means to come up for the losses in the meantime. I'm sure if you tell him that the money was meant for a good cause anyway, he'll be happy to give you the key, I said generously. Could you possibly try and bring the key back to the parsonage, just to make sure that it doesn't happen again? Mr. Fartbaum gave me a strange look and put a hand on my shoulder. You've got a point. I'll do that. I'd also try to give back the money he stole, anonymously, of course. Probably not everything at once. I need to make him break his habit of stealing for the greater good. You know, sometimes he's got these moments where I think I could get through to him. And then he started tidying up the inside of the caravan, like he'd simply forgotten about us. I almost thought he did until he reached the envelope Louise had found, took out the money and gave it to me. Here, take this as the first repayment of many. I need to explain to him that he can't keep trying to do good by breaking the law, but that he himself is in such a disadvantage that he's the one that needs to accept the few goods he is given. And what happens to the kid in Tanzania? Asked Louise. I'm sure it's waiting for the money. Mr. Fartbaum scratched his beard. I'll see if I have something to spare at the end of each month, but I would ask you to leave now. The last thing he said to us sounded almost as unfriendly as the first thing. Apparently, Mr. Fartbaum suffered from mood swings. He pushed us out of the caravan, and we returned to the parsonage, feeling both accomplished and embarrassed. Accomplished because we'd been right in a way, and because we prevented any further thefts. And embarrassed because we'd falsely suspected Mr. Fartbaum. In fact, he seemed like a much more reasonable, or at least a much more generous person than the entire rest of the village assumed. They'd all just jumped to a conclusion based on the bad rumors they'd heard. We brought Micah back onto the Ziegler's yard, managing to probably close the gate this time, and then sat down in the kitchen to eat gingerbread and cookies and drink lemonade. After that, we all played Lego and tried to confine Bubblegum to his set of Duplo Lego so that we could have the small bricks to ourselves. Later that day, Dad and Janine returned. False alarm, they said. His doctor was there and said it wasn't his time to go just yet. What about you? Any more trouble in the kitchen? No, not the slightest bit of trouble in the kitchen, we answered truthfully and looked at each other with knowing smiles. The end.